Hello everyone, welcome to another week in our fourth grade classroom. Hello. I am coming to you first thing in the morning on Monday, the last Monday of February, and also the first day of week 26 of this 39-week school year. So this week is going to be a full school week, and I can't wait to bring you along with me. I'm going to give you a glimpse of our agenda before I go pick up my students, and then at the end of the day, I'll come back to you and I'll bring you some of the highlights from some of these lessons. Here are all the things that I have planned for today. And this is how we're going to end the day with some science, continuing our tutorials. And again, I'll let you know how all that agenda goes. Right now, I'm going to finish getting ready for the day and pick up my students so we can start our day of learning. Hello, friends, coming to you at the end of the day, letting you know that we got through all of our agenda. Look at all of the items checked off, and I'm so proud of ourselves for doing that. There are some things that we still need to wrap up for tomorrow, even though I checked it all off because we did touch upon it. But we do have to finish some assignments like the math problems. We didn't completely finish them. I'll show you what those look like. And also our science lesson today at the end of the day, we got through the light tutorial that we didn't finish last week, and we got through the heat tutorial, but we didn't get through the sound tutorial. However, I did introduce them to sound energy through the lesson in our book, and we closed that lesson. So tomorrow we'll do the sound energy tutorial, and the students can complete those exercises on their own, and then we can wrap up this unit by Wednesday and have the students take the topic assessment for that. So I'm excited to wrap up our science. Again, those energy tutorials come from floridastudents.org, and I'll link them down below in case you're interested in checking them out. So going back to the beginning of our agenda, we did read the poems that we needed to read today, and we had really good discussions about them. I'll show you the questions for the reading response that we were discussing during our lesson. Tomorrow, the students are actually, instead of reading, we're going to take a writing practice exam that's going to take up 2 hours, so we're not going to have time for reading. But we're going to wrap up reading on Wednesday, and the students will take an assessment for that particular unit. In writing, we were trying to wrap up my mini lessons for the Should Students Improve Schools opinion essay, and I wanted to review the different parts of our body paragraphs along with the pencil elaboration strategy. So I used the TREE acronym in order to help my students know how to structure their body paragraphs. So their topic sentence is made up of a transitional phrase, and then followed up with their reason or idea depending on the essay topic. And those two become their topic sentence for that body paragraph, aka their main idea sentence. Then they follow that up with evidence and elaboration, enough evidence and elaboration, E's, to fully explain that main idea, which are our supporting details. Now, our pencil strategy for elaboration stands for prediction, examples, non-examples, comparison, imagination, and life experiences. This is the image that I show the students along with that pencil strategy, because this is the one that I've had in my previous writing PowerPoints to show them different writing stems that they can use when they are using any of these elaboration techniques. Now, I did let the students know that these techniques are not necessarily all used at once, and not every essay topic will lend itself to some of these elaboration techniques, but these give them an idea of how they can elaborate whatever point or idea they are trying to explain as it relates to the essay topic. Another thing I did was to show these students these examples that I've had in the past for this same prompt that I did with previous classes. So these are different examples for introductions for the pro. So there's example 1, 2, and 3, and I color coded it so they know that aqua is the opener, purple is the topic sentence. The highlighted words are words from the actual prompt. And then I show them the examples for introductions for the con, which is students should not do activities to improve schools. So this is example 1, example 2, and 3. And then I moved on to showing them different examples of topic sentences for their body paragraphs. So this is for the reason that it's good for students to get involved with activities to improve schools because it boosts school spirit. So there are 4 different examples of topic sentences here that the students can see. So they have the transition followed by their reason, and there are 4 different ways that I said the same thing about boosting school spirit. Then I had the students look at an example of a pro first body paragraph so they can see the green is my topic sentence, is made up of my transition plus my reason. The orange is my elaboration, and the blue is my evidence. This is an example. This particular paragraph is not fully finished. It's just an example to show the students how they can go ahead and explain that particular reason. And here is another example paragraph. Again, the green is my transition plus my reason, and then I followed it up with evidence from the text and then my elaboration. And again, I have the color coding over here, which shows green, transition plus reason, which is the topic sentence for the paragraph. Blue is evidence, orange is elaboration. And here are some other examples of topic sentences for the con, so that the students can see different ways that they can write that if that is their opinion. And then I show them an example of a conclusion for this particular essay. After I did my mini lesson, the rest of the time I was able to meet with 4 students to conference about their writing and give them some tips and suggestions to continue on making revisions to their essays. So that was our writing lesson for today. All right, moving on to math, I wanted to show you the practice problems that I printed out for the students. So here is one going over different lines, rays, and angles so that the students can look at different figures and be able to see which figure is represented by these descriptions and fill out this answer. This comes from commoncoresheets.com. And on the back is different ways that we classified the triangles. And I did confirm with the students by using rulers to make sure that this is isosceles, 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 equilateral, scalene, isosceles, isosceles, and scalene. And of course, by looking at the angles, we can tell whether it's acute, obtuse, or right. So then I printed these sheets out from the Engage New York resources. This one goes over different kinds of angles. And on the back, we are going over classifying quadrilaterals. And this one is on classifying triangles. So the students didn't finish completely with these sheets. That's what I meant by we just have to wrap up a few things. So these will be wrapped up tomorrow. Backtracking a little bit, we started our day with this vocabulary weekend wrap from last Friday that we didn't get to watch. And look, they talked about Erin Jackson, which we stopped last week to read a Newsella article about her. And then for reading, we used a double bubble to compare the anchor text poems to the paired selection poems. And there were a lot of similarities and not that many differences, but it was a good way that we were reviewing that, as well as going over all of these reading response questions in our reading discussion today, just so that we can have a clear understanding of the purpose of each poem, the theme, and what we can learn from all of them. And that, my friends, wraps up Monday, and I will see you tomorrow for Tuesday. Hello and welcome to the end of the day on Tuesday. Let me give you a rundown of our agenda and then some highlights from today. Here is everything that I planned for a day today. You can see by the checks what we were able to do. And here is what we accomplished in science. We did have to move quite a few things for tomorrow. So we didn't have enough time in science to get through the rest of the energy tutorials because we were reviewing the other energy types and also having the students discuss different types of energy. I also showed them some vocabulary videos on light energy, heat energy, and sound energy. So we spent time doing that as well. In math, I didn't do the weekly math review because I wanted to have enough time to let the students finish their practice math problems from yesterday before they took their mid-chapter checkpoint today. And that meant that they needed the rest of the math time in order to finish their mid-chapter checkpoint test, so we didn't get to line symmetry. So as you saw this morning, the students took a practice writing exam, and this is the topic that they were writing about. This is the writing booklet that they had. So they were reading about the wild among us. So source 1 was about coyotes, the howl next door. Source 2 was about squirrels, power chewers, and source 3 was about pigeons and people. So that's what they needed to read about. Here is the prompt itself. This comes from the FSA website. I'll link it down below in case you're interested in getting a copy. And then they had their writing pages. They have 3 of those. And the last one is on the back right here. And they also have their planning sheet so that they can plan front and back what they're going to write about in this particular essay. I have all their writing papers with me. I may start to kind of score some papers just to give the students an idea, but this is the paper that we're going to use tomorrow for writing camp. Now, I also wanted to show you what I created in order to help the students tomorrow during writing camp and the teachers as well, because if we don't get through everything, at least the teachers have that handout that they can use in the classroom to continue that lesson. So I went ahead and created this on PowerPoint, and our assistant principal is making copies for all of 4th grade. But the front page is going to be like a cover sheet that the students can take notes. It gives them the focus for tomorrow's lesson. Every week they're going to have one of these. We're going to focus on a different mini lesson, and this is the page that comes after that, which has the prompt. The APT is easy as 1, 2, 3, which is how we analyze the prompt, and I'm going to have them do that right here. And then I included a sample planning sheet showing them how they could have gathered their evidence for this particular essay that they wrote about today, and some little tips in the boxes on the margin. And this is how they could use the back side of that planning sheet with some little tips along the side as well. So this is our spaceship graphic organizer. So this is one way they could have organized their essay, talking about the positive effects and the negative effects that wild animals and humans have on each other when they live in the same area. And then, of course, at the bottom, I put the little Ben Franklin clip art, and it says, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, which is one of his quotes. So all of this is being printed out for us. Another thing that I did so I can help my students is I started writing strips of sentences from the sources. So this one and this one, so 2 pages for source 1, 1 page for source 2. And I may need an extra page for this one because I'm running out of space, because I wanted to add a little bit more about the war pigeons and how they were used in World War II and I. So these are different evidence or sentences of evidence from all of the sources. And what I was going to do is I was going to color code them in different colors based on the sources and have students categorize and organize the evidence and put them into buckets. So that's an activity that I may do with my students in the classroom. Of course, I would have also loved to do this activity with all of 4th grade in the cafeteria, but that would require a lot of papers, a lot of cutting apart of those strips. So if anything, I can just send this document to the teachers and my team. So if they want to do that with their students in their classrooms by themselves the rest of the week, they could do that as a manipulative kind of activity in writing, so they can manipulate the evidence and put it in the groups that make the most sense, and that way they can see how they could have organized their essay's body paragraph. All right, so that is the big highlight for today, and that's where I'm going to leave you. So I'll see you tomorrow, Wednesday. Hello everyone, I'm coming to you from Wednesday in the morning, and I have to stop a moment because I have special guests today, because today is Read Around America and we have some special people reading to our students. So I want to introduce you to Miss B and Miss B.
Hello. It's actually Miss Pierre.
Miss Pierre, thank you. Miss Pierre and Miss Brins.
Miss Beckford, yes.
Miss Beckford.
Miss Beckford. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, and they were just reading some books. Miss Beckford read Counting on Catherine, and Miss Pierre is going to read to us Malala's Magic Pencil. Yeah. And I know the students are really excited. Are you all excited?
Yes!
So thank you so much, ladies, for being here with us today. And we are using Novel Effect to read these books. So again, I'll link Novel Effect in the description box below. But we're going to continue enjoying books, and I'll catch up with you at the end of the day. Hello again. I'm coming to you back at the end of the day, and it's been a very eventful day. You saw from the last clip, we had 2 amazing readers today that read amazing books. Let me show you what books they read today. So one reader read Counting on Catherine, How Katherine Johnson Saved Apollo 13. Beautiful story by Helene Becker, illustrated by Dao Fumiruk. And beautiful story. I highly recommend it. So inspiring. I practically got tears in my eyes. Another one that put tears in my eyes was Malala's Magic Pencil. Oh my goodness. This was actually written by Malala herself, and the illustrations and the words are just so inspirational. There she is But amazing, amazing story. Both of these stories were on Novel Effect. One thing that I noticed from Malala's story is these last words right here on this page: one child, one teacher, one book, and one pen can change the world. My eyes filled up with tears. And if you use Novel Effect, this book is on Novel Effect, then these words are actually read through the Novel Effect sounds by Malala herself, because this was from her address to the United Nations. So, oh my goodness, if I would recommend some books to you all, please, please, please read these to your students. And again, a big thank you to our guests today who read these stories to the students. It was such an amazing experience for me, for the students, for them. They were here with us for about 30 minutes. And it was just simply amazing. So as you can imagine, that was set back some of the things that we had planned for today, but that's fine. It's okay. Today was Read Across America Day, and the whole week is Read Across America Week. So we've been reading some really great stories to the students and celebrating it in different ways to show diversity in books and in the stories of people around the world. So it is something really amazing. Let me back up and tell you how our morning started, because I wasn't able to come to you this morning. It's been a whirlwind of a morning. As you know, today was writing camp day 1, or week 1, because we only meet together one day in the week. We'll meet again next week, Wednesday, but this is the official kickoff, and I was the person leading the entire thing. I got to give it to my students. They're amazing. They were like, Ms. Sanchez, you did such a good job. And then I got really good feedback from the other teachers and the other students who were very excited about being able to participate in writing camp. So I showed you a couple of different things that I was planning. So right now I'm going to show you how the handout looks, because yesterday I gave you a glimpse of it. I'm going to show you how the handout looks. I also worked on a PowerPoint that I showed the students this morning as I was teaching the lesson. And then at the end, they had an activity to work on their own planning sheet copies. We gave them a fresh copy so that they can create a bucket where they can group ideas together in order to respond to the prompt. So here's the handout. Here it is, all printed out. So here's the back where they went over the APT 1, 2, 3 to analyze the prompt. So the students did do this part, as well as circling the essay keyword and underlining the topic. And then we went over the planning sheet and how to use the front and back of the planning sheet as ideas. These are the color papers that I mentioned yesterday about putting the evidence from the 3 different sources color-coded. So this is source 1, source 2, and source 3. And then I'm going to have my students work on sorting these into groups. So I'm going to actually cut it out for them. I have enough for 5 different groups. So that's something that they're going to be working on later this week. And this is the bucket example that I came up at the end. Another way that we could have responded to this prompt on the wild among us, how wild animals and humans affect each other when they live in the same area. I decided on this one, fear each other, and I think one of my students came up with a similar title for the bucket, and these are the evidence that supports that. So people can be afraid of coyotes, according to source 1. Coyotes are naturally scared of people. People may fear that squirrels will cause a power outage. That's from source 2. People fear the mess pigeons will make with their poop. That's from source 3. So again, this is another way that they can address that particular prompt. And this is the PowerPoint that I put together very quickly last night. This is a template from Slides Mania. You can see it right there. I'll link it down below. Please check her out. She is so amazing. She creates all of these PowerPoint and Google Slides templates that you can use for any occasion, and they're free. So please give her a follow and download any of your favorite PowerPoint templates that she has, and you just customize it to fit your need. So this is our Welcome to Writing Camp 4th grade, and here's week 1. These graphics are by an artist on TPT. I'll link her down below. They are beautiful, and I just added a text box right here to the sign so that it goes with our writing camp. So here's our focus for week 1. We are looking at informative writing and looking specifically at these 3 things. We are analyzing the prompt using the planning sheet and grouping similar ideas together. And then we started with that, analyzing the prompt. We went over what is APT 1, 2, 3. And then we looked at the prompt itself. For this one, let me just go ahead and add the animations a little bit here so you can see it. So that is our essay keyword. This is our topic. And after that, we find out whether it's a 1-part or a 2-part prompt. And it's a 1-part prompt. And then we found the APT. Audience, purpose, and task in the form of a question. So that is how we went ahead and did it. And I reminded them that it's important to read the prompt first before they read their sources. And then we went to part 2, which was how to use the planning sheet. So I showed them how to use it. I just sectioned it off. I talked about it as I was showing these different things. So I wasn't going as fast, but I did tell the students, because the writing on here is kind of small, to look at their sheets because it's the same information on their particular sheet. And then this is the back, how they can use it, which is the blank side, where they can just create the spatial graphic organizer to go ahead and figure out how they're going to organize their essay. And again, they can make it like into buckets as well. And then, of course, a famous quote, "If you fail to plan, you plan to fail," by Benjamin Franklin. And then we went to the last part of our presentation, which was grouping similar ideas together. So we talked about the different buckets. So one way they could have go ahead and organize this particular essay, let me go back a little bit, is the positive and negative effects. So one paragraph could talk about the positive effects and the other ones could talk about the negative effects. There was another way they could have also organized their buckets. They could have just talked about each animal and how the animal affects humans and how humans affect that animal as well. So 3 different paragraphs here. So I went over some very important tips so that they remember they're not summarizing the sources, they're addressing the prompt and answering all parts of the prompt. And here was another bucket idea that I got, which was animals cause damage. So I can talk about in one paragraph the effect that animals have on humans. They can cause damage to different things, right? And then animals can also be helpful to people. So that's another paragraph that I can talk about an effect. And here is people affecting animals, because people tend to feed wild animals, and that's what makes them lose their fear of humans or keep coming back for food because they hope to get more food. And then I went ahead and I did a review of all of the different things that we went over in today's writing camp. And then that was it. This is the end of the presentation. As you can see, it was fully loaded. It was a lot of work. It is a lot of work to plan something like this. I stayed up till like 12:30 last night, which is past midnight, working on this PowerPoint. But I have a full week before I create the next PowerPoint, and I already know we're talking about elaboration next week. So I'm doing a whole elaboration mini lesson for them. So getting ready for that. I'm going to go ahead and show you my agenda for today, which you're going to see a lot of things we didn't get to for obvious reasons. Also, this morning, writing camp took a little bit longer than usual because we were waiting on the setup for the cafeteria and getting everything good to go. It was the first day after all, so hiccups are expected, but it was a success and the students had a lot of fun. So here's a rundown of our agenda today. As you can see by the arrows going in the right direction, that means I'm moving those things for another day. Yep, we didn't get to science today, and mostly because we were working on math and working on an activity for symmetry. And also when I went to get the students from lunch, I only have 50 minutes for science on Wednesdays after I pick them up from lunch. But the students had just gotten their iReady treat for doing their iReady minutes last week and passing their lessons, which was a snow cone, and I wasn't going to come back to the classroom with snow cones. So I had them outside of the cafeteria in the picnic tables finishing their snow cones, so that took time. By the time we came back to class, it was like maybe 15 or 20 minutes left before the school day. So the students were just finishing their symmetry activity, which I'll show you in a moment. We were working on our weekly math review, so we did Monday and Tuesday because we hadn't done it all week. And on the board, I wanted to go ahead and revisit 4 different division strategies so students can keep it at the top of their minds. Right here, we start with a division model where we use base 10 drawings in order to represent 3,928. And then we started regrouping the thousands and then regrouping the hundreds, regrouping the tens until we were left with remainder 4. And we had enough in each group so that we knew that the answer was 654 remainder 4. Then I show the students how to do it using the big 7, because this looks like a big 7. It's basically partial quotients. And again, 654, remainder 4. And here is the grid method, which a lot of my students love. And here is the regrouping method, which, as you can see, all of these coming together give you the same answer. And here is the symmetry activity that I came together. We were looking at whether shapes have 0 lines of symmetry, 1 line, or more than 1 line of symmetry. And I quickly made this with different shapes that I found on PowerPoint. You could also use Word if you want. So the students cut across this line, they cut these out, and they paste the squares in the correct column. Here is a completed one so that you can see these have 0 lines of symmetry, these have 1, and these have more than 1. The students really loved doing the cutting apart and pasting activity. And I think they really enjoyed it. So that's what took up a bulk of our time today. But again, it was a very eventful day and the students were very excited. And the energy was on an all-time high, I'm going to tell you. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and leave because I have an appointment to get to. So I will see you tomorrow. Hello everyone and welcome to Thursday or Friday Eve. I'm coming to you at the end of the day. So let's get started by showing you a glimpse of our agenda for today. So you can have an idea of the different things that were planned for today and what did get done and didn't get done. So yesterday we were supposed to take a reading test, but because of the events that happened yesterday, as I explained, I moved it to today. So we started with our weekly language review. We did both Wednesday and Thursday. So tomorrow they'll take their weekly language quiz for this week's skills. And then they took their Wonders Unit 4, Week 5 reading assessment, which went over poetry, connotation, denotation, and theme. And then it was time for our writing lesson. Now our writing lesson ended up taking a little bit longer than expected. So I did have to borrow some time for math, which is why we didn't get to do everything in math today. So I am definitely moving that for tomorrow. But let me show you what our writing activity was. As you saw in the agenda, it is an evidence sorting activity, which is what I talked to you about earlier this week. So every team received a set of papers, colored papers based on the sources. And then I had the students actually cut the sentence strips apart so that they can work in teams and organize the evidence the best way that they felt, like putting ideas together. And as they did that, I gave them a large sheet of that Post-it note paper that I have, and they created their evidence groups or their buckets, but I told them not to draw the buckets, just to paste the evidence on the paper and label it so that we know why that evidence or that group of sentences goes together, how they went ahead and grouped the evidence together so that they can answer this week's prompt. So let me show you my example on the board and then a glimpse of the completed examples by each of the groups that completed the activity today. So here are some of the evidence strips that I was working with and I was grouping, so I'm not done. So this is one group and this is a second group that I was thinking of whether to keep them together or separate them. But here is where I was putting them together. So these I put all together so you can see the evidence here. And all of these shows how animals and humans can help each other. And these over here is how we can learn about them, about wild animals, how people learn about them. And these here that I haven't put up yet are how they cause damage, wild animals cause damage. And these I was trying to decide whether I was going to put how people feed them or they fear each other, which goes with the anchor bucket that I created yesterday that I showed you. And of course, these are the ones that I didn't use and were left over, because I made sure to tell the students that they didn't have to use all of the pieces of evidence. They needed to group the ones that they felt went together and that they wanted to create their sections or their groups on. So here is how one group of students did it, effects on animals, so how people affect animals and how animals affect humans. Here's another group. They titled this group Fun, this group Damage, and this group Helpful. This group talked about problems, benefits, don't feed, and living in the same environment. This group talked about the positives and negatives, and this group did the same, which doesn't surprise me because positive and negative effects is what usually comes to mind first when you're reading this prompt. But I'm very happy with the work that the students did and how I made it into a manipulative writing activity where they were working together. They were manipulating the sentences and grouping them together and also using color, which activates the brain. So I really enjoyed this activity and I hope you enjoyed looking at the short clips that I added of the students actually doing the activity. So then it was time for math, and what we were working on was the weekly math review, which reviews everything from chapter 1 till now. And we did both Wednesday and Thursday, which took up some time. And of course, then we went to lunch, used our bonus math time to finish the weekly math review. Then they went to art, and after art, we started our social studies chapter 7, which goes over the Civil War till today for Florida history. So this is the lesson guide that comes with our curriculum. And then I went ahead and I gave students this handout right here, which goes over the preview activity. They had the directions and they had a picture similar to the one in the presentation. And they had another picture and they had to act like historians and write questions that historians will ask about this picture and questions that they will ask about this picture. And then as we read section 2, they were able to find answers to those questions. In the presentation itself, it goes over the 3 questions for this particular photo. What is happening here? When was this photograph taken? And what kind of boat this is? And then I had the students go ahead and read section 2 so that they can find the answers to that. We went over the vocabulary for this chapter. And we started with our first section, which goes over here, where they have to read these 2 questions, work with a partner, write a question based on the artifacts that they see in this picture here. And then we read the section on slavery and secession, so that the students can then go ahead and answer these 2 questions and find the answer to the question that they wrote together. Tomorrow we will continue with section 4 as well as the other sections in the book. We'll probably do maybe 2 or 3 sections tomorrow depending on time. The students will have artifacts that I have pictures of that I will project on the screen that they will take a look at and answer questions as we read each section of this chapter. So that is basically all I have for you for today, Thursday. So now we're going to go ahead and move us on to Friday. Hello again. We have made it to Friday and I'm coming to you at the end of the school day. Let me give you a quick glimpse of our agenda and share with you some of the highlights from today. As you can see, this is what we have planned for today, and with all the checks, it shows that we actually got through everything. It all started with the students taking this Wonders test preparation and practice, which is an FSA style test that Wonders made for us. And this is what the students worked on today. So they did half of the test today. They did from question 1 all the way to question 25. So they took the first part of this test today, which ended right over here. They read a couple of paired passages and a couple of passages by themselves. And this is where they stopped today. So on Monday, they will continue here and finish from question 26 all the way to question 50, which is right here at the end, has some editing tasks for them to complete, and they will be done with this practice test. The students are timed for 80 minutes so that they can have a practice of how they would actually take the FSA reading test in May. They will have 2 sessions on 2 separate days for 80 minutes each. So my students had 80 minutes to complete all 25 questions and read those passages, and everybody finished within that time. So I was very proud of them, and they did a really good job because I was walking around and I checked off some of their questions. So they actually did pretty well, and I'm very happy. So then we went ahead and took a little break by watching the Flocabulary Week in Wrap for today, which was really informative. And then we went into writing. For writing, I showed the students a couple of examples of introductions so that they can work on revising their introductions. I also went ahead and gave them a brand new sheet of paper. I printed it out in green, bright green. In retrospect, in the future, I'll probably just use some colorful pastel colors, but I wanted them to have a separate paper where they will rewrite their revisions for their essay. So their original essay is still intact inside of their answer booklet, because that's the one that they took when they took the practice test on Tuesday for those 2 hours. So this is the paper right here, and right now it seems pretty good, but when I put it on the document camera, as it is reflected on the Promethean, it's kind of hard to see. But I went ahead and rewrote another introduction, but in addition to this, I also showed students 3 other examples. This is example 1, which shows a scenario introduction. So it has a scenario opener, and then it ends with the topic sentence that includes words from the prompt. This is an interesting fact introduction, which is short and sweet to the point. And this is a sound effect because we were talking about coyotes. So we add a little howl at the beginning and then introduce the topic. Then I moved on to go over the different parts of a body paragraph and ended up drawing this on the board. So it's a very chunky burger, but at least it goes over the topic sentence. So our topic sentence is made up of our transition plus the reason or idea. That becomes our main idea sentence. And then this is where all the details live. So it has to be kind of chunky. And that's why I put the meaty part really big so that we add lots of details. And that is where our evidence and elaboration comes in. So those are our supporting details. And then we have a closing sentence to wrap up this idea and get ready to move on to the next one. So the students went over this. And on Monday, I'll give them a sheet of paper where they will copy the first sentences of each of their body paragraphs and make sure that they have included a transition and clearly stated their reason or idea for that particular paragraph. If not, they will revise on that sheet as well. And then it was time for math. And in math, we not only did a quick lesson on geometry patterns, but we did our chapter 10 review test. And of course, we took it to attack the castle. And these were the final results. So we had Calistini in first place, followed by Valor and Eurofiki that were in second place, and Revere was in third place. And again, our review games are very simple. We literally use the Go Math review test. I have the students sit in houses according to how they were sorted in my classroom at the beginning of the school year. And then we go ahead and have the students get called randomly. Each house gets called randomly. I used the wheel of names that I also created with all the houses around the wheel. And I just go ahead and call different houses. And if they get the answer correct, they get to choose which kingdom they want to attack. If they don't get the answer correct, I attacked their kingdom, but I didn't have to attack any kingdom. They had a really great time, and we reviewed chapter 10. So on Monday, the students will take the test for that chapter. Then, of course, it was lunch, then recess, PE. And at the end of the day, we not only wrapped up our review game because we only had like 4 questions left, but we went into our social studies lesson where we continue reading chapter 7 on Florida history and completing 2 more sections in our reading notes. So the students answered questions for section 3 and section 4, and they came up with questions with their partners and a symbol to represent that section. These are the reading notes right here. So they had these questions to answer after we read the section. And then they wrote a question related to the artifacts that they saw before we read the section, which I show them on the board. And then they drew a symbol. So here we drew a symbol of a circle broken apart because the United States broke apart during the Civil War with the Union and the Confederate States. And then we read section 4, which again, they answered the questions. They came up with a question and they answered it right here. I didn't write my answer here, but we did discuss the answers. And then, of course, the symbol that I chose to draw with my partner was 2 swords in a cross because of the 2 sides that were fighting in the war. Next week, we're going to continue reading this chapter. We should be done by Wednesday, doing a couple of sections each day and having the students answer those questions in partners and draw a symbol to represent each section. So that, my friends, is everything that I have to share for you for this week. I'm going to end this vlog tomorrow. There is a superintendent's 5K run, Race for Education. They do it every year, and I am participating this year, so I'll probably do a separate vlog on that event. If not, I'll probably just tell you how it went on Monday. All right, so thank you so much for coming along with me on this 26th week of school. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to hit the like button, leave a comment down below, let me know what you thought or any questions you may have. Also, if you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing and hitting the bell for notifications so you don't miss any future videos. I hope you have a beautiful, magical day, and don't forget to smile. Hello, dreamers, wishers, and magical thinkers. Thank you so much for making it to the very end of this video and for showing your support. If you'd like to subscribe, you can do so by clicking on my picture down here. You can also check out my latest videos here and here. Don't forget to believe in the magic that's inside you because you are capable of great things. See you next time.